When I started school, I was 6, but I couldn't go into first grade. Like most Hispanics, I was held in what they call the readiness class, where it was, I guess, kind of comparable to kindergarten. I had 2 sisters who had already taught me my ABCs because they were already in school, my colors and the things you needed to know back then to get into first grade. But as Hispanics, we have primarily Hispanic readiness class where you had to go. I was fluent in Spanish and I was fluent in English. So because I was Hispanic, I was held there, which kind of held me back for a whole year when I could have gone into first grade. But I basically had to do that whole year there to get ready. But I had a wonderful experience with my teacher, Miss Davis. She loved me. I know she did, and I was her pet because I remember as school was ending, my birthday's in May, she says, I'm going to have a party for you. She goes, I'm not supposed to do this, but I'm going to have a party for you, and I don't care what they say because I'm retiring. And I have this great picture of her and I in the playground. My mom and my Aunt Dora, I was named after my dad's sister, brought cakes for the kids. And I remember that like it was yesterday. And my grandmother took a picture of us in the playground. And she was Miss Davis was a little short, chubby lady. So, good memories. Goodwin was a small school. It was so small that they had kinder through 8th grade. One hall was what would be considered primary, and then the next hall was the 7th and 8th, which would be the back then called junior high. We had an auditorium, cafeteria kind of thing, and my first teacher was Elna Frazier, who had a school named after her. Wonderful, wonderful teacher. The best teacher I ever had. Would make you feel so comfortable. As a Hispanic, I'm sorry. We did have issues. And my mom, not being able to speak Spanish, sent me by myself first. Oh. And I would see all the kids with her. Oh. But she always made me feel so comfortable that it was okay. Oh. And you know how you see other kids with their parents coming the first day, and I didn't have my, because she was embarrassed because she couldn't speak English. But it was okay. Got everybody to get up and say their name. And I remember saying, my mom couldn't. She said, that's okay. Oh. And she was such an excellent teacher. All the things I remember about grammar, about handwriting, I remember from her. The little things that we used to say, like the quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog, and all those things. I still think about those as I'm typing and writing. I remember those things. Wonderful teacher. So then I had Miss Wiegand in the 2nd grade. Miss Wiegand, I remember most about her was that she was the teacher that took me in her arms when I had to tell her that my Tio Meme had died. Oh. I walked into class, it was a Monday morning, and as a 2nd grader, I'm sitting there, and I didn't really understand what was going on, but I knew it wasn't a good thing. My uncle was very sick and my mom was very sad, and I remember taking all those things in and sitting there, and she turned on the light and I just saw her, and I guess I felt so comfortable with her that I knew it was okay to cry. And I walked up to her and I cried, and she just scooped me in her arms and sat me on her lap. And she said, what's wrong? And I repeated all the words I had heard, but I didn't know what that meant. They said, he's very sick and there's no hope. I didn't know what that meant, but I repeated those to her because I knew there was something not right. And it was like, this is like a snapshot in my mind. And I don't remember the rest of the stuff, but I remember that snapshot in my mind about that. So all along we had those kinds of teachers that were so supportive and understanding. And so we went all the way through Miss Clendenin in 5th grade, Miss Averett in 4th grade. Miss Clendenin was my 4th grade teacher. Miss Hampton, whose son Mark Hampton now is a real estate agent here. Mark and I went to school together. We were in his mom's class together. Mr. Raw in 6th grade. So we got through elementary. I was the second set of students that went through to the new Canyon Middle School.
Okay.
Back in the day.
Okay.
We were Hispanic, well, predominantly Hispanic and Anglo.
Mm-hmm.
But we took in all the rural areas, like Bulverde, Spring Branch.
Wow.
The kids came from there. And it's interesting because we didn't really have buses per se. And there was a young kid, he was a high school kid, would bring kids in a station wagon. We had a big, so a lot rural. Actually, it was Comal County Rural School District back then. And then at some point it became Independent School District. So that's kind of everything about Goodwin that I remember. In the second set of students coming in to Canyon Middle School. High school was, of course, where it is now the middle school. The Churchill Middle School was the original Canyon High School. And then once the new Canyon High School was built, then that became the middle school. I never graduated from high school. I did a little stint and decided, I was kind of a rebellious kid. I decided, heck, who needs high school? Well, I got married, had a couple of kids, and the reality of the importance of an education. So because of a lot of life circumstances, I had this I went to work, I ended up in Waco, took a class, became a dental technician. Came back to New Braunfels. I was hired by Dr. Strodeman. Yeah, I worked for Dr. Strodeman for about 11 years, I think. And that was about the time when the HIV scare came and we were required to wear rubber gloves. The interesting story about all that, it kind of changed my life, where I am now, because I found out I had an allergic reaction to the latex.
Oh, I see.
And I couldn't wear them, so I ended up with an allergy latex reaction, but back then there weren't, I guess, any gloves that weren't latex yet. And I had the opportunity, which was then the program through the state of Texas, Texas Rehabilitation. I went and touched base with them and they said, you qualify for our program. What would you like to do? I said, I have no idea. I had been doing some volunteer work with the women's shelter and I thought, maybe I could be a social worker. The state paid my 4 years of college. I got a small check for gas. They took care of all my books. I ended up graduating in '96 and had an opportunity to continue my master's at UT Austin. So I took advantage of that. I did that and I ended up doing what I do now. So I'm a master's degree social worker, clinical social worker, and just took off from there. Most of my work has been in the medical field. Currently I'm a case manager for civilian trauma over at Brooke Army Medical Center.